like to start off by thanking you for being present today amidst everything going on in the country. Times are tough, but our spirit has to be tougher in times like this, and life has to progress. As the Rotaract Club of Colombo, we feel it is our duty to not just serve our country in need, but also make things memorable for our members, past and current. It is with this ethos that we had this long-standing idea of publishing a book to celebrate our club, its presidents, and the membership that has left the club in an impeccable state. The book in print, we hope, would last for posterity in the same way our club is 52 and counting. We worked tirelessly to make this book happen, and it has not been without burning midnight oil over the last week. Interestingly, I lost all my typed interviews over a month ago when my laptop's hard drive failed, along with the backups, and had to type them all over again, so this will be memorable for sure. So I guess the making of the book is something I wouldn't forget after all. I would like to thank my team for working round the clock to contact all past presidents. In the process, we had the wonderful opportunity of engaging with 50 past presidents. We were unable to contact one president, but built a chapter based on sentiments expressed by those who knew her. We thank our youth advisors, Uncle Risley, who's always been with the club, and Nakib, one of our past presidents, for their time and their effort and their encouragement in making this book a possibility. The toils of our time are evident in this book. We hope you enjoy reading it as much as we enjoyed compiling it for you. Thank you. So what we would like to also do is show you a little bit about what our club has been doing over the past year. We compiled this video of the 52 plus projects that we did in our 52nd year. We hope you enjoy it.
Rotarians and friends, it is indeed my pleasure to be here with you today for this ceremony, book launch ceremony. It is not just a book launch today. I think it is a celebration of the commitment Rotaractors have shown towards the community and in serving the community. It's a celebration of the leadership that your past and current members have shown in carrying out the various projects that we saw in the video. It's I think a celebration of the friendship and the fellowship you have built along the years, and I think it really stands the test of time, your 52 years and counting. So from the Rotary Club of Colombo, we are very happy. Rusli is here, stalwart of the Rotaract Club of Colombo. I think very happy to be sponsoring you and to be supporting you in any way that we can. You have shown 52 years of leadership and community service. I think your job is not done by any means. If the Aragaya in boldface is anything to go by, it is the youth of this country that have to be the change makers. You have to be the guiding light in that change, and you've got a way to go in that. So here's to hoping another 52 years of success for the Rotaract Club of Colombo and for a better future for Sri Lanka and for all of us. Thank you.
I'm the alternate member to introduce you as the original person. Ladies and gentlemen, 52 years in the Rotary Club is a long, long time. I sometimes wonder whether I was born or not. But it was a wonderful journey. We are in the state of turmoil in this country, as you all know. But when you are in a state of turmoil, you need people like the person that I introduced to make things be at ease, for you to smile, and release your stress. And that's the gentleman that I'm trying to think. We all know in my college, in Uzbek Hussein, some people call him the Royal Highness. And though he was all of us go a very long way back. Some of us who are here, we know that. And to go back to the journey, we met perhaps 2 years ago or a little more. It was a pretty wonderful time that we had. A person who's been hunted about his hair, knows very well, and always has a smile, and who will always listen before he speaks. Very rare. When he speaks, we have to listen. But he's a man of wit. He's a man who does things without people seeing. At the end of the day, when things go wrong, he's not there. And some of us get caught. If I am to tell everything that I want to tell about him, it might take more than 5 minutes. But he told me, limit my talk. But he is somebody whom I believe is a good friend. Always a good friend. And he will rekindle you when you are doing something wrong. And he will motivate you if you are not somewhere there to make your future. He will come behind you to push you hard to do things that you should do and not what you want to do. If you are doing something wrong, he will tell you, hey, this is not correct. That's the man who founded the Rotary Club of Colombo, Rotaract Club of Colombo 2 years ago. At that time, he had a Rotaract governor, and he was the first governor, if I'm not mistaken. Right? He was the first Rotaract governor, and after him it was another name, correct, Rotaract district, right? Yeah. I'm speaking from my memory now, so forgive me. So that was the club that we originated, and we had a bunch of very close friends who was vibrant. We did things that others jealous about. Good old days, we had only a few outings like the medical ball, the chartered ball, but we at Rotaract had a ball with maintenance. So we were sort of near one of the struggles. Right? And this secretary was Ilani, poor girl. Right? She got the I don't want the team, but she was pushed. Right? And she was my secretary as well. So this was a good time that we had. We did lots of naughty things as well. I mean, we used to travel abroad. We used to take us to Bangalore, which you might remember, and yeah. We also went to later in the day. He did us on trips to participate in Rotary meetings. He chose very attractive locations. For example, the most important club in Bangkok was the Bangkok. That's a Rotary club. Then we used to go to Germany, and number one compartment was the most important club. So we went there, his lady wife, and Hakim and Farad as well, and we used to go there, but for Rotary. That was Indonesia. In brief, I think I've taken maybe more time that I have. That is the person that called RH, who lives in, and can I say more of that? No. Thank you very much.
Counting and numbers and figures. But with an introduction like that, I think you have missed your profession. You should have been a fiction writer. Your vivid and fertile imagination came to play just a little while ago, which has nothing to do with reality. It's totally imagination. And however, I appreciate all the good things you said, but I said most of it was fertile imagination. Thank you for the honor that you bestowed on me this afternoon. I'm delighted to be here, as you can imagine. More so because I'm with some pioneer members of this club, the early members, excepting one, my secretary, Separama Studio, for some reason he has not turned up. He was the first secretary of the club. But I would like to give recognition to some of them who are here today. If I have missed out on some of the early members of the 80s and 70s and 80s, please let me know. Within your 80s, 90s. I'm not sure that there's Sepi who's not come here today, Separama Studio. He was the first secretary of the club and also the second president after me. Then there is Tilak Pesoisa who is here with us. He's a founder member. He was amongst the first 10 that came with me and started the club. Then there is Chandru Gunawardana, the pioneering manager. There's Fazal Ghafoor. All past presidents of the club. One other who is not here, but I have to give recognition to is Ms. Milani Pereira, who was the first secretary of the Rotaract Club of Colombo. First female secretary, sorry. The female being, there's a story behind it. Until 1971, Rotary International Constitution had no permission to bring in female members. Only in 71 that they opened the constitution for females to be admitted into Rotaract. And Lilani came into a few months later, and in 72, 73 became the first female secretary of the club, and went on to be the female secretary of the Rotary Club of Colombo, my club.
Yes.
In the year early 2000. So she got no, my year was 88. Anyway, that's Lilani, and she was a highly dedicated worker. The other people are Nafisa Amir-Din, Gulam, please come up, Moideen Carter, Dinanta, Adrian Pereira. Can't see the early people, all the other people are here. There was another who is not here today, that is Irania De Silva, the son is representing him here. We have been trying to get us. Irania is in Kenya. And Nikesh?
The young ones.
Yes. In 1969, September, when Tilak and Milani brother Jetba, Anil Virutunga and few of us got together to start the Rotaract Club of Colombo, we never realized what we were getting into. Now, we never realized what we were getting into. We formed this, 10 of us formed this club just to have a good time and have some fun. But what really happened was, that we got some recognition because we are under the patronage of Rotary. So because of the recognition and the credibility that followed, we were able to get into communities, reach out to communities and do our service because of the Rotary connection. Today, that same club that was started 52 years ago has not been a club, now it has gone into a movement which is encompassing 90 clubs in this country and with over 5,000 Rotaractors. So that's a huge shift, so much so that in fact, factually, our growth is faster than Rotary itself. We have 2,000 plus Rotarians and 5,000 Rotaractors in this country today. And over 1.3 million Rotaractors across the world. So it's been a tremendous growth story, fueled and perpetuated by enthusiasm, energy, and the motive to serve, not only in Sri Lanka, all over the world. And one of the things that I have found in the last 20 years, that the growth in Asia is more than the growth in in Europe. And that is because there is more poverty, more malnutrition, more opportunities in Asia than in Europe. So the growth of both Rotary, even Lions, even Toastmasters, even Rotary, the growth is more in Asia than in Western countries, or indeed where it was found in the United States. So these 90 clubs have brought together a whole new district. When we started Rotaract in 1969, we were part of what they call the South India Sri Lanka district. It was 318. But now it's come to 3220 and we have our own district. And that shows the growth of these organizations. 1969 was a momentous year for the world. One of the things that some of the things that happened was that it was in 1969 that I don't know whether any of you remember this musical concert known as open air concert known as Woodstock. It was in upstate New York. Woodstock was a groundbreaker, and when Naroshi spoke about Aragale reminded me, Woodstock started by the youth of America as a protest against the Vietnam War. They were protesting against the war because they said the older people are declaring war and the young people are dying. So they protested, they kept protesting, and they gave expression to this protest by having an open air concert, musical concert called Woodstock in upstate New York, where they brought in a whole new culture. Not only a musical culture, but a social culture. For instance, they brought the Woodstock concert brought in, it went on for a week or 2 weeks, I forget, but it was a stay in, like Karagale, 75 days or something, but this was exactly the same parallel against the Vietnam War, and this Woodstock concert had something more than that. They brought in huge musicians. They got exposed, people like Jimi Hendrix, John Denver, Jimi Hendrix, Mick Jagger, Neil Diamond, they all found their place in the concerts called Woodstock, and then they shot out to fame. And the cultural part of it was, for the first time, the world started hearing about flower power. Flower power came in from Woodstock, and so did the culture called the hippies. There were no hippies before 1969. The hippie culture, the flower power culture, and John Denver and all these people came into it because of Woodstock. So it was a huge, like a change in the outlook of the people. So much so that 3 years later, the Vietnam War collapsed and the American troops withdrew. In 1972, Nixon, before his next election, he withdrew. And that was the end of the Vietnam War 3 years after Woodstock. So these are some of the things that the young people at that time contributed to the world. Also, 1969 was the year when man first landed on the moon. July 1969 was the year that Neil Armstrong first took his step and landed on the moon, and he made this very profound statement which reverberated all over the world, echoed and re-echoed in the world, which is called "One small step for man and a giant leap for mankind." This was origination by Neil Armstrong when he first set foot on the moon. The other was another political drama when a 28-year-old colonel in Libya, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, ousted King Idris of Libya and formed his own government. It was a military dictatorship, but with that came the entire political landscape of the African continent changed. With that came more coups, more changes in political administration, more changes in government, but it was started by a 28-year-old colonel in 1969 called Muammar Gaddafi. Then in Sri Lanka, of course, we started Rotaract. So that's a big change here as well. And that came about nothing to do with what happened internationally, but on our scale. the members of the Rotaract Club who are here today, I must tell you one thing. And that is that you have a unique place. This club has a unique place in the history of Rotaract movement in this country. Really because being the first Rotaract club, when the history is written about the Rotaract movement in this country, the Rotaract Club history will be intrinsically interwoven into the history of the Rotaract movement being the first club. That's something that nobody can take away from God. Nobody can take that away. Somebody can say we are the best club, we are the largest club, but one thing they can't take away is that the history is intrinsically interwoven with the history of the Rotaract movement in this country. And together with the fact that it has been blessed over 52 years with unbroken record. There are Rotaract clubs that were formed in Jaffna, in Colombo West, in various parts of Sri Lanka, in Gaul, but they fell asunder after a few years. But the Rotaract Club of Colombo has an unbroken history of 52 years, which is something that should be given a hand. While it's good to be talking about the past, I also want to address something about the future. And why young people, especially the young people here, should look ahead. And that is in terms of what is happening in the world, the changes that are taking place. For instance, the global economy is experiencing a tech. Can you hear me now? The global economy is experiencing a telesonic shift. And there will come a time, if it has already not come about, that because of this telesonic shift, commodities are going to be more rare than money. There will be a lot of money chasing few commodities in terms of oil, in terms of gas, in terms of food, and that will be the future that is going to unfold into this world. And this is the changes that are taking place because of what is happening in the world. Then there are other things that come into play along with that. Climate change. Then there is transfer of technology. Then there is water management, food sustainability, robotics. All these are coming in with the changes that are going to take place in the future. And I don't know whether we are ready for it. For example, take Uber. Uber is just a software package. Uber is just a software package. But see what they have done. They don't own a single vehicle or a taxi or a car, but they are the largest taxi company in the world. Just kind of application, software application. The same thing goes in the opposite direction. Kodak. The Kodak film company, which was a pioneer in the world, 10 years ago had 170,000 workers. Today is bankrupt because they didn't change with the times. There's no Kodak company now. It's bankrupt. Take the other changes, for example, electric cars. In the next 15 years, there are going to be more electric cars and very few internal combustion engine cars. One of the pioneers in that, who is associated with Tilak Soisa, is Nissan. Nissan brought out a car called the Nissan Leaf, which is a full electric car. But everybody thought they were ahead of the time, but they are not. They are moving ahead of the curve. And in 20 years time or 15 years time, children who are born today will only see internal combustion engines in museums. Because they won't be running around in the road. These are some of the changes. The other one, more closer to home, is home cooking. I don't know whether you all realize there is less and less of home cooking now, more food delivery service. That's a big change that is taking place in most households now because of lack of domestic help, number one, lack of other facilities. People are going into small apartments so they can't cook. Husband and wife are earning, if the children are there, they are earning as well. So they have no time to come home and do the traditional cooking that our parents and our grandparents did. So the food distribution business is going to be the new wave, or if it's not currently one as well. 20 years ago, did we see this coming? Nope, I don't think so. So I would advise the youngsters to be ahead of the curve. For example, all these changes that I told you about, technology, all that, it didn't just happen. Somebody started thinking, somebody imagined, somebody dreamt the impossible dream. People like Bill Gates, Julian Assange, who's that other famous guy? Steve Jobs. They dreamt the impossible dream and then made it a reality. And that's why we are here where we are in the world. They pioneered it. The other thing I want to tell you all is that you people, I'm not talking about the seniors who are in the front, but those youngsters for the Rotaract Club of Colombo who are behind, for them, yeah, Father, you included. You included. Who are behind, who are seated below, behind, you are young, you are energetic, most of you all are tech savvy, unlike some of us, you all are tech savvy. It is all the right combinations to dream the impossible dream. And like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, make it a reality. In order to do that, first you have to dream. And as a sage once said, long ago, if you do not dream, how can you make your dreams come true? Thank you.
How Microsoft Word today was introduced to the world, and the Mario Brothers video game was first released in Japan. Furthermore, in the UK elections, Margaret Thatcher won a landslide victory. And a month later, in Rotaract Club of Colombo, Nafisa Anuruddin became president. Coincidentally, because of her dynamic personality and leadership style, Nafisa would be labeled by her peers as the club's very own Iron Lady. For Nafisa, Rotaract cemented friendships and bonds that will never go away. Members all belonged to different minority groups and many were affected by the civil conflict. Truly embodying the theme of the year, mankind is one. Her Rotaract experiences revolved around reconciliation among each other clubs and the community at large. She recalls that despite 40 years having passed by, she and her clubmates still pick up where they left off. One of her most memorable experiences during her tenure was hosting then Japanese Rotary President Hiroji Mukasa at her home in Sri Lanka. Apart from many things I have tried to learn from my mother, I hope I may be as elegant, charismatic, brave, and intelligent as she is. She is one of the biggest reasons I joined Rotaract exactly 30 years after her presidency. Past President Nafisa Anuruddin,
My daughter was so enthusiastic, but I was thrilled when she joined Rotaract rather. I'd just like to say thank you to Rotaract Club of Colombo and its membership for having organized this, and more than that, for having undertaken this project with the book. I think it was long overdue, and this is a fitting occasion to launch something of this nature. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me to read, which I'm very honored to do. And I see that a lot of us are from like the first 20 years of Rotaract. So I think all of us had similar experiences in that we all joined Rotaract, as Bruce Lee says, to have a good time, to make friends. And something that I think was very common in that time, there was really no other recreation as such. We had school kind of, ruled a lot of the organized events, and unless you belong to some clubs, sports clubs, etc., your evenings were quite free. Movies were the only entertainment, and Rotaract meant an excuse to meet up, chat, have a bite. Going out was also quite rare because I remember Vajira Road, my parents-in-law's home, used to be a kind of club headquarters, and we used to meet up at every given opportunity to plan projects and do stuff. In fact, something that comes to mind is that the very first disco was organized during our time, and we called it Chevu. We had it at Women's International, and much trepidation because it was a completely new idea, but we were sold out and we had to kind of stop people, climbing the gates which had to be closed after a certain time. Of course, we had to shut, I think, close down by about 11. So, just like to read a few things. Chetlia has asked me to read a segment on Fazal Kapoor's year, which I think was a bit of a watershed after Rusli's 10 years when he, the club kind of settled down into becoming a leader in the Rotary and Rotaract communities. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'll just read a few little excerpts, and I'd like to call Fazal over soon after to share some of the other anecdotes in his own inimitable style. I also like anyone else who's here and would like to share an anecdote or two to please come up and do so, because I think it's important that some of the stories that don't get told are also shared sometimes. It's good for, I think Bruce Lee's been with us ever since as I can remember as well. And he's been a real rock for Rotaract, and in all our life, as Chandima mentioned, he's always there in the good times and the bad. Thank you, Rusli, for everything you've done for all of us in Rotaract and for all of us personally. And we've made some wonderful friends. I think that has been one of the big parts of my Rotaract life. So, going on with some of the reading, 1979 was Fazal Ghafoor. Past President Fazal Ghafoor's Rotary attachment came through his time as an interactor at Royal College. He left school in 1976 and joined the Rotaract Club of Colombo around 1977. He knew many people in the Rotaract circle, such as past President Rusli Hussain and past President Chandima Gunawardena. They were Rotary advisors to his Interact Club. Rusli was quite proud to invite me to the first Rotaract Club in the country, he noted. His background as an interactor and cadet at Royal College and attending religious ceremonies of all beliefs while at school formed the foundation for his spirit of community service and working with people. He was a secretary during past President Rohan Victoria's time and became the president in 1979, just 2 years after joining the club. Fortunately, he had the wisdom of past President Rusli Hussain and past President Chandima Gunawardena, who instructed him to restart the club. Huffing and puffing on our push cycles, we used to go from house to house to get new members. What a line that is in today's context. He remembered this with a chuckle. The ideas came flowing in. Let's put Rotaract Club of Colombo back on the map. He recruited many associates he knew from Interact and college and kick-started the club. Future presidents such as past President Janaki Ramachandran, past President Nafisa Amiruddin joined at this time, along with another active member, Renuka Advani. Someone most of you will remember, unfortunately she's suffering very poor health at the moment in the UK, and it's very sad that she doesn't really want to meet with a lot of us, but we keep her in our prayers always. She was one of the most active members. I think she single-handedly used to collect funds for us, and her home was also always open 24/7 for Rotaract and its activities. Along with Nelum Vicharatna, possibly who was the secretary at the time, they were instrumental in bringing many female Rotaractors to the club. And at one time, the number of women exceeded the number of men in the club, quipped past President Fazal. Well, we came in around the same time. I was quite happy. We restarted the club, and we even had fireside meetings to imitate Rotary. Just going forward a little bit, To raise funds, they did a finance project called Decadance to mark the 10th anniversary of the club. Kuzama and I were introduced to the club at that point through Hadia and Shabir Galeli, who were close family friends. So we kind of marked Decadance as the watershed from when we joined Rotaract. This was to mark the 10th anniversary of the club. It was held at the Holiday Inn, where President Fazal Ghafour's brother was a hotel housekeeper and their cousins were the owners. So, family bonding to another level. So, the club managed to secure the venue at a very affordable cost. The band for the evening may have been Sang the Man. We collected 15 to 24,000, which was a lot of money in the late 70s. We sold many tickets among Rotarians who got wind of the club through this event. It was some marketing for the club, as they considered sending their children to the club, a successful venture in getting people to gravitate towards the club. This was the year they began a project at the Chitra Lane School for the Special Child, a project started by the Rotaract Club of Royal College, and they did some projects there, like the Christmas party. This year, the Rotary Goodwill Conference on World Peace and International Understanding was held in New Delhi, India. And the Rotary Club of Colombo sponsored past President Fazal Ghafour and another member for the ticket and stay, and 2 other members only for the ticket. They visited New Delhi, interacted with Indian Rotaractors and had a great time. At the end of the conference, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi hosted Rotaractors at Hyderabad House for tea. That was a high point, he noted. I believe Janaki was with you all at that point. She had given us some pictures, I think. And Rani as well. They did a vocational service project called Managing Change, held at the Oberoi, now known as the Cinnamon Grand. That was the first time computers had started entering the Sri Lankan market at a retail organization's level. And the club decided it would be a worthy topic to do a program on. They required a sponsorship of 5,000 rupees and approached the husband of past member Nilanthi Pinto, who ran a soup project to serve soup to the needy. She led the club at the time. She led the club at the time, and after marrying her husband, who owned a company down Jaya Road, he graciously agreed to sponsor the project and provided the complete works with speakers, banners and decorations. He wanted to be important also, said Fazal, and it no doubt helped usher in the crowd of interactors, Rotaractors and Rotarians. A Rotarian donated 10,000 rupees to the club, impressed by how well it was organized. They assumed they would barely break even, but at the end of the event they had more money in the bank. They had presentations and sold and showcased some computers. Past President Sudesh Balasubramanian was the chairman of that committee at the time. Finally, there was acceptance and recognition surrounding the club. The Rotarians were the first to turn up at our events, he said. Rotaract taught him the importance of tolerance and diversity, allowing him to pick on people's talents. Most importantly, taught him how to fit in with many people. Saw a generation gap between Rotaract then and now. We had a childhood and we were mischief makers. But today's youth do not seem to have the same values. The Rotaract Club of Colombo hosted the Rotaract District Conference at Charlika Hall. This was a time when we had a joint district and we had the Indians visiting us for the conference. And Ranil Wickramasinghe was chief guest. This was in April 1983, just before the July riots. This was the setting of the infamous bun throwing incident that's already there in the book. But suffice it to say that the planning for the event was no less eventful. Past President Fazal Ghafour was down with pneumonia to Durban's hospital. The bill was paid by Ceylon Tobacco, thankfully. And all the organizing and brainstorming for the event took place in his hospital room, with the rest of the board being his caring bedside visitors. In 83, he aged out of Rotaract and formulated a plan to start a new Rotary Club. This is how he became charter president of the Rotary Club of Colombo Uptown in May 1985. They built 10 to 12 toilets for the community and sunk a dozen tube wells. He was district secretary for the Rotary International District 322 North for the year 1992-93. Sadly, he quit Rotary in 2000, moved to Nairobi, Kenya due to work commitments. So that's, in a bit of a nutshell, past President Fazal Ghafoor. Lots of the items in this, I remember after decadence, as I said. Well, a lot of the other stuff is in the books, and I like if probably Fazal and maybe a few of the other Rotaractors here would come out, past presidents would come out and share something personally. And perhaps when you read the book, then it will all come back to you. I'd like to say thank you to Chetlia and the Rotaract Club of Colombo for asking me to do this reading. And I think what Rosalie said is so apt. You know, we were in a time when there was nothing, as I said, at the movies. There was no, I think TV had just come, 79, TV had just come. You can imagine the quality of the programs we were watching. There was no technology of any kind. So I think conversations, friendships, working together was all we really knew. Perhaps younger people today should think about something along those lines, because today I feel that technology has taken over everything. Family, friends, home, the office. It's very good. I agree. I wouldn't be able to teach if I didn't have online Zoom classes. For 2 years, you know, I wouldn't be working. So technology is all very well. But I firmly believe that person-to-person interaction, meeting with people, being able to go up to people and say hello, being able to meet, having the confidence, these are the things we learn through Rotaract. And I think forming lifelong friendships. The first people we think about when we, you know, we just want to even meet up are our old Rotaract friends. And from anywhere in the world, you know, we meet them all over. I had the most strangest experience. You may know past President Fritzi Mohideen. We were supposed to meet when we were visiting the US in 2005, but for some reason, you know, we were not able to meet up in California where he was going. He had some mishap with his plane, something happened, I don't know, he missed a flight or flight was delayed. We were in New York in Times Square, and quite unknowingly to both of us, all of us actually, I was with my family, we were standing in Times Square outside the McDonald's, outside one of the theaters, my children were at the show, and I could see Fritzi walking from above those windows, and he was walking towards me. And he said, "Oh my gosh, I saw you there," you know. And it was bizarre, because no way could that have been planned at all. He didn't know we were there, we didn't know it was going to be in Times Square. So it's just one of those very, very strange coincidental things. But sometimes, you know, when you hold people in your heart, there's always some chance to meet up at some point. So I wish all of you well, and Rotaract is a really great platform. I hope that, you know, we will keep it going for another 52 or even another 100 years. We won't be there much longer, but Fazal, can I call you over to share with us some? I'm sure you have much more interesting things to say about your days. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Your grandmother. Actually, it's a privilege to be in this club. As she said, you know, that time we had 7 or 8 members, and I think we brought it up to about 23. And you know, this club was known to be an elitist club. As Lucy said, there was one in Nagula, one in Aurelia,
and the rest of the places. Now, I was asked by Sam, will you speak a few words? So I'm not going to refer to them. I think you're going to find time for bedtime reading on them. But I think when you say few words, politicians and past presidents have this congenitally incapable syndrome of not staying for short speeches but for a long time. And we've seen it in our past presidents so far. And I'm not going to bore you with more than that, but just to say to you that I want to coin the word Margaret Thatcher for her, because there's a time, she was coming in as president of the club and Margaret was in power. We had a lot of romancers in the club at that time, and therefore lots of girls and boys started coming in, and that helped. That was an avenue, Rosalie, which was not part of these 4 avenues or something. They were down those shady places of Gower Street and whatever. We were at the AFS office. But Nafisa has been a lifelong friend of mine. My children have had the benefit of going to classes for elocution to her, and then meeting her sister and her extended family, her husband, all. And those are really some of those values that we had and built over the years with Rotary. I want to just share one aspect. We do not have order here. When I was asked to go by Rotary Club of Colombo to lead this group of Rotaractors to the conference of Lucy in 1981, we flew to Madras and we took the air-conditioned chair car. Right, that took us, I think, 36 hours to Delhi. Lovely journey. Went there, and after the conference and the works, we went to Agra and places, joined the Rotaractors of the other countries also who came there. And then we broke off and came into Bangalore. And we spent about 3-4 days in Bangalore. Loved the apple carts, the multi-cinemas, things you never saw in Sri Lanka at that time. And then we had to book our train back to Chennai to fly back. So we went to Chennai, we went to the railway station, and the 5 of us wanted to book our tickets. And there were 4 seats available. But we were 5. The Janaki was one, Sepalika was the other, Ranil, I can't remember myself, others. And station master, we told him, look, we have our tickets, we have to fly out Chennai. He said, no, don't worry, there will be cancellations, so I will give you a seat. So we turned up at the railway station at the appointed hour. I think it was 9 o'clock in the night for the Brindavanam Express, which travels from Bangalore across India to Chennai. And when we went there, unfortunately for us, there were no cancellations. So we were 5 and 4 tickets. So we told the station master, we'll sit on the floor. In India, sitting on the floor is nothing big. You see, but now we are all floored here. Right? That's the sad part. I think we are saying up. So we got into he said, no way. So I said, okay, let's cancel the booking. And we walked across to the central bus stand there and got into a bus, private bus. And I think 1 hour into the bus, because the night journey that took us at 8 o'clock following morning to Chennai, night journey. And when we reached Chennai and we bought the newspaper at the railway station, at the bus station, here with the headline, Brindavanam Express jumps the rails, 40 kilo. So I'm happy I'm alive here to tell you that story. But those are some of those thoughts that really go through me that, we 4 of us could have gone and 1 person could have stayed back or whatever. But that was really the whole bonding that we had. But there were 2 girls, like we said, Malika and Janaki also with us. So in Rotaract, I have to say, I am what I am purely because of Rotary. I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm proud to say that. Men like Rosalie and Chandra have been stalwarts to help our club right through. I had a whole host of people for my wedding, and my mother said, is this a Rotary conference? All the Rotarians, I refused them. I had most of them at my wedding, and they have been lifelong friends, particularly I remember. And I have to pay tribute to Rosalie's dear wife, your mother. Great. I mean, our Rotaract Club was always invited to their family home at Flower Road at that time. I think we were able to mold people who successively took on. Even we had a pipeline of presidents. That was important. So we had no reason to put people and say, now take the shell, like what happens in most places. So we built that. And I think Bruce Lee invited me to come to the Rotary Club of Colombo. And I said, no, I think it was a little too beyond me, because I think there was a massive age gap also. But I don't see it now, obviously. But that time I did see it. And I was happy to start the Rotaract Club of Colombo uptown, where Colombo, where Ram Jadirani and Gamini Edrising were stalwarts in helping us establish that club. So, all in all, I have to say to the young people here, and echo what Nafisa said. I often tell my children, we were the last generation to listen to our parents and the first generation to listen to our people. We did not have technology in our time, but we had the bonding. You could go by push cycle to any Rotarian's house and they would welcome, because there was no technology, nothing. Today my children are saying, Dada, they are chatting with you and they have their bloody phone in their hand. I said, this is not chatting. You're fooling around. And I'm only saying to you, you might think that I'm a new, different generation. That's fair. But I think connectivity is not technology. The touch and feel is technology. And I think all of you must also realize that, because today, for a very strange reason, we are looking for touch and feel in this country. Sadly. But that's a different debate. So thank you very much for inviting me. Thanks a lot, Sam, for badgering me with all these things. And I can only wish you well, though I've not been able to participate too much in your things. I do keep the rest of what you have in your plate. So thank you very much. God bless all of you.
Both clubs was the values that we learned in Rotaract and Rotary. And those values are still existent, and that's what we have tried to inculcate and so the values that we learn in Rotaract, the principles that protect those values are everlasting. Those things will never change. That is something that I would like to place under. The second one is friendships. It's very surprising. When you make good friends, they last forever. Today I am working in a company, my chairman is still alive. He is mine when I did, and the people who own that company were also Rotaractors. Right? So it's a friendship that goes cut across many years, many membranes. That's something that we always cherish through Rotaract and through Rotary. To such an extent, which was my best friend.
Just say something real quick. I didn't realize that past president was saying about that you all had a disco. And I remember when I was president, one of the things that we talked about was having a party. And it was a big debate because we were going to have it at a nightclub. And at that time we were trying to discuss, should we have alcohol, serve alcohol or not? And it was going up and down. Some of our members said, no, we should not, because up until that time we thought that we never had like a disco. So then I remember going and asking the president, he was, I think, past time, asking was president at the time, and asking our Rotary Club, is it okay if we serve alcohol in one of the functions? And they came back and said, of course, you all are adults. You all can, you know, you all are not school kids anymore, so you all can decide. And then we decided, okay, fine, we're going to serve alcohol. So that was interesting to know that you all had a disco, and I think the club still continues to have an annual party, right? It's nice to know that those things went on. Also, past president Chandima was talking about we being an elite club, and even then, even when I was president, that was the perception that everyone had in the district that we were a premium club. And actually, I wanted to in my year, want to break that, and we made every effort to go to the district and kind of. But we realized, you know, at the end of the day, we are still an elite club, so it was very difficult to break that perception. But of course, we narrowed the gap a bit. So I'm in the club. I even with Chedlia this year as well. She was talking to me about that perception, and I think it's fine to be that because we are an elite club. You know, so that's something that we have to embrace, and I think that's what attracts people also to join our club. So Rotaract, when some of the past presidents were talking here, I was reflecting. It's the exact same thing that I went through. A lot of other presidents and past Rotaractors went through as far as friendship goes. Some of my best friends and my closest friends today are people that I met through Rotaract. So I think that's something that's gone right through the generation, and thanks, I'm very grateful to my dad for starting this club and all of us being here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening rather. Chedlia asked me to speak about the Golden Jubilee. So I'm past President Imran. I was the 50th president of the club. Still an I wouldn't say active, sort of taken a back seat the last year or so. Golden Jubilee was a very interesting time for us. We had a lot of pressure from all the stakeholders in the Rotaract and Rotary movement to do something special. But of course, it was, in the aftermath of the Easter Sunday attacks, we found raising funding was incredibly uphill task. Finally, we all came to some sort of an agreement on how we were going to do it, and I think the level of interaction between past presidents, existing club members, the district was probably, I'm biased in saying this, but probably the greatest it ever had been. The amount of collaboration, the amount of actual dialogue between all the various stakeholders, and I think I'd like to echo past President Akib's sentiments about the perception of us being an elite club was, it was very, very prevalent in our year. And I think despite our best efforts, I think that perception is still there. We too tried our level best to change it, but it was quite foolish. I think we've taken the approach of just accepting what the club was. Perhaps it wouldn't have been such an uphill task, but it was. I think the 50th year was an incredibly pivotal moment for our club because we had about 9 or 10 senior members actually step down that year, the year before. When past President Haley stepped down, some due to the age limit which was there at the time, but of course it's not there right now. Some people are getting married, some people are migrating, some people are moving on, and I think the initial build up to the Golden Jubilee was a real pivotal moment because we didn't know how many active members we'd actually have come, the anniversary of the Golden Jubilee. But at that point, we had incredible support from the past presidents, and it was just so nice to see, people from the past members, past presidents, so many people from the movement at large come forward and help us, provide a lot of input, actually roll up their sleeves and get very involved on the day itself. I think that's very much a testament to what I think the Rotaract Club of Colombo is, and it's been great to see 2 years since I left, having attended meetings under past President Shah's tenure, and now with Chedlia at the helm. We did 34 projects this year, yeah? 52 projects this year, so incredible. It's all challenges. Really amazing to see what we've been able to do, and I think the demand now to actually join the club is probably the best I've ever seen in all the years I've been at Rotaract. We're actually turning people down now, which we didn't do last year or the year before. The vetting process to join the club has been, there's a lot more scrutiny now than there was perhaps a year or two ago. So I think I, for one, as a past president, can safely say that things are definitely moving in the right direction, and it's great to see unfolding amidst all the challenges. So, just a little bit from me.
To all of you. Glad to be here. Because Wanti kept contacting me to get the write-up. That whole thing out of memory. So after kept on persevering, I think the memory started flowing in. So when I thought of the Godfather, Bruce Lee, then things started flowing because he kept on pushing me. I remember attending the first Rotaract friendly debate at the anniversary celebration of the Rotary Club at the rooftop at Taj. Having that celebration.
60th of Rotary.
Yeah.
Around 89. 88 I got married, so 89. In 88 I was invited to this debate at the rooftop. Which was a friendly debate whether it should be an arranged marriage or a love marriage is better. And that was the topic, and my father-in-law to be at that time invited me and he was behind me to join the Rotaract Club. So that's my beginning at Rotaract. Then, of course, the year I took on was the year I was to leave Rotaract because I reached the age limit. But then the guru, the past DRR Fritzi, came up with some legislation from somewhere where he said that I could complete my 31st year if I served as the president. So I took on the mantle because the president-elect had to suddenly take off to US. I think watershed here in a way because we were after the JVP disturbance of 87, 88, and then the country had got a fresh breath of life, but all the young people who were aspiring to be professionals, studying, looking forward to a better future, took off for better pastures overseas. So we were left with the club in a sort of a crossroad, as it were, and then people retaining them was a big issue. And then funds was the other big issue. So someone towards December, I think we were all tired and we wanted to take a break. And then we had declared a holiday for the club because we were meeting once in 2 weeks. And also coincidentally, 2 of our members were getting married. If I remember, it was Adams and or one other wedding in Bombay. So our club was at that time filled with the Bora community, so when they have an event, the club gets a holiday. So the Rotary advisor had happened to drop into the Taj that week and found the club was not meeting. This was reported to the then governor, K.R. Ravindran, who was the disciplinarian, you know, and they said, just shut the club down. Summoned to the next meeting, I don't know if they remember. I had to present the half-year progress that we had made. But we presented the reports and the presentation. I think there was a sigh of relief and the club got a new lease of life. So they gave us so much support then for the next project, which was World on a Platter, which was a unique project. We got all the diplomatic community together. All the embassies brought in their special cuisine, their culture, dances, songs. It was an event on the rooftop at Taj. And I remember K.R. Ravindran came as the chief guest and he stayed along for the whole project and left at the end of it. I walked him down to the car and he said, it's fantastic. It was a Rotary class project. So I said, from your example and inspiration, I can tell you one day you're going to be the Rotary president, RI president. I got into the car. I was looking for the letter which I wrote to him, but unfortunately I couldn't find it. There was another letter with Uncle Rosalie wrote to me. Rosalie and couldn't find that also to give it to them. But anyway, it was a memorable year and somewhat watershed because if not, the club may have been closed down.
I was the 40th since our founder. And even though I was an 80s kid, I became president in 2009, soon after Shamima. A lot of past presidents then, from Husna, Shami, Mufa, and some of the others who were around that time are not here though, unfortunately. What past president Nafisa mentioned, and I think a lot of people who spoke after followed, about our status as a club. My opinion was that it was immaterial because as a club, we always did what was right. And we always made sure that we had high standards, whatever we did. From every project that we did, our gatherings, Uncle mentioned about our values that we held. Even the Chandima did mention the values and the morale that was governing our club. And I think that was very high at all stages. And the message to the future is also we shouldn't really care, because that morals, that values, and everything we do, we always uphold that standard in the sense that we started in '69. So just forget it. It's nothing to be bothered about. And even at that stage, when I joined, it was only by invitation. And of course, that was to make sure that the standard that we had was always maintained. So I echo what Fazal mentioned. I'm here because of what Rotaract and Rotary has given me. This family has kind of got me to be friends with lots of personalities in businesses, personalities in community, lots of personalities and friends, even now. Lots of Rotarians. I remember some of the people off my head, Uncle Senaka, most recently, when the Alis, a lot of Rotarians, a lot of people also, community leaders and business leaders. So Rotaract was that opportunity for me. Unfortunately, I couldn't continue after my year, but then always we kept in touch. We heard what you all were doing, what the club was doing, and always had that time. Some of the things that I remember as president or as a past president or member were the standard of projects that we did, like for example, Escape to Paradise, Mufasa. Hosting Rotaractors from abroad, not just one or two, but sometimes 10, 15 people. Our past presidents, our past members, our members did host them for 5 to, 10, 12 days. We took them around the country, we showed our culture, and always we had that standard that we made sure that, in terms of the projects that we did and the culture we shared. Even to date, one reason why Colombo is always, the man continue to be up is that standard that we have always maintained. So I was just thinking what to speak, but then I realized a lot of you all who spoke before me had touched upon every part of that recipe that keeps this club going. So even though the presidents who were just around my year are not here, I would still go for what they would think. And we always wish the club great success in future. Like you all mentioned, another 50 more to come of success, and always, I'm sure the past fraternity or the community will always be in the orchard. Thank you.
The club's secretary, and as you probably are aware, my job is to close the doors opened by Jedlia, and she charges for creating new projects and ventures. So I'm here to deliver the vote of thanks. Now, this book would not have been possible without the support of our past presidents. So first of all, I would like to thank the 51 past presidents that we interviewed to write this book. Then of course we must thank our Rotary advisors, Uncle Rusli and Naki, for their support in guiding us for this book. And then of course, there are so many past presidents who shared photographs from their years. This was great because we really did not have that many records when it came to the early decades. Thankfully, for the past 2 decades, we have social media, which has a record on its own. But of course, there were past presidents who were kind enough to give us the March monthly reports or the annual reports from their years, trophies, and other publications that were very helpful in building the narrative for the past 2 years. The 25th anniversary book, that was by Janaki, was very helpful because we did not have a record of the first 25 years of the club.
Past President Nafisa gave it to us.
Alright, I'm so sorry the book was given by Past President Nafisa. Alright, and then I would like to thank a couple of past members who helped us as well. They were Shabir Galili, Ranil De Silva, and Sanka Karunaratna, who shared anecdotes and photographs with us. And of course, I would like to thank the writing team for this book, which included Chetia and me, as well as Nuwate, who covered the 1990s, and then Salman, who did the 2000s, Adam, who did the 2010s, and Anjali, who helped with admin and coordination. I would like to thank Farah Fazli, who did the illustrations to the book from 1994 onwards. And I would also like to thank our media sponsor, Rotaract. Overall, it was a huge accomplishment for our club. This has been an idea we've been mulling over for quite some time to prepare a book so that we record our legacy for future generations. And I'd like to point out one last thing. Basically, every single president mentioned the friendships they forged while at the club and how they still last to this day. This book is also a testament to friendship between Chetia and me. There were many bitter battles between the two of us deciding how we are going to present the book, but of course they were all smoothed over by figuring out this is something we need to do, this is something that will be appreciated, and this would be a great opportunity to establish our image as a club as well as make sure our club culture and spirit will last for longer with our members. And I'd also like to thank everyone here today for taking the time to attend.